And this idea that is very popular and broadly kind of embraced on the left, that it is wrong to treat our national deficit like a household budget. And that engaging in that particular narrative is not only wrong, but it is potentially harmful insofar as it furthers a kind of political approach that basically sets us up again and again to be threatened with cuts to significant social programs because people weaponize the idea that we have to just get the budget under control. So first, since this is the first time we've really gotten into MMT on this particular podcast, maybe we should start with an orientation of what that is before we get into the specific discourse around the fiscal cliff, as it were.
Okay. Well, first, a couple of things. I did not hear the conversation between you and Rick, and I know Rick. In fact, he's going to speak to my class here in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. So I invite him. They are. So I know him and I like him a great deal. I didn't hear the conversation, but maybe like you, I did hear from people who did hear the conversation. And, I think that for all that Rick does really well, I think this lane is not where his strength lies, let's say. And so I hope that, you might be able to tell me some of the things that he said that maybe I can correct from an MMT perspective. You've talked with Fadl Kabouk, is that right? You've had,
absolutely.
Yeah. So maybe, people can find that episode too when they go back and listen, because I did hear that. He was really terrific. So, let's start kind of at the beginning. MMT is a huge project. It's, the brand name, if you will, for what's really a body of scholarship that's been produced over now almost 3 decades by, economists, mostly economists, but working all over the world. So it's a big project. It's a lot to wrap your arms around. I'm not going to be able to do all of it with you in just a short time, but just to get to sort of the basics. You got there in your opening when you said we shouldn't think of the federal government's budget the way we think of our own personal household budget. And almost everything follows from there. Once you understand what makes the federal government different from a household, a business, or a state or local government, then you're off and running. So let's talk about what makes the federal government different. And it's basically the distinction between being the issuer of the currency, which the federal government is, and being the user of the currency, which you and I are, and businesses are, and cities and states are. So think about what happened when COVID hit us in March of 2020, right? We were worried that tens of millions of people were going to lose their jobs. We were worried about businesses and entire industries going under. We were worried that states weren't going to be able to maintain essential services, health, and transportation and all the rest of it. Everybody needed money. And where did we turn? Well, to Congress and to the U.S. Treasury. Why? Because that's where the money comes from. And so with little hesitation, Congress knocked out that first fiscal package. Remember the CARES Act? That was $2.2 trillion. Congress didn't have to go around hat in hand and collect money from taxpayers and go to China or anything like that, right? Because the federal government has something the rest of us don't have. Congress has the power of the purse. It can, in a sense, spend money it does not have. It can commit to spending trillions, and it didn't stop with 2.2 trillion. It came back and did 900 billion in December of 2020. It came back and did 1.9 trillion in March of 2021. That's $5 trillion in 12 months' time, saving households and businesses and entire industries like the airlines, helping state and local governments. So the rest of us were in a real pickle, and only Congress, by virtue of the fact that it has this thing the rest of us don't have, which is the ability to create and issue our currency, to in a sense, spend money it doesn't have. If we could all do that, we wouldn't have needed those stimulus checks. We wouldn't have needed, unemployed wouldn't have needed that extra $600 a week, right? State, look, we would have just made the money up ourselves, but we can't do that. And so MMT starts with that recognition. And then from there, lots of things follow about what we get wrong about deficits and debt and everything else.